These are Godot most popular methods, the methods that most people will use most of the time, and many people see it as some sort of role. And I make an emphasis on some sort because because we will not know exactly what they were, but they seem to be part somehow of the internal workings of the game engine or something like that. That, however, is not exactly the case. The reality with these functions, these methods, they are part of the node class. And most of the time, and this is probably why people, and me included, will think that they were more universal, is because all nodes uh, inherit from the node class. And when when pretty much doing most things in the game, especially as a beginner, you're going to be working with nodes a grand majority of the time, if not all the time. Well, and most of the time that you will write a script will be, of course, as part of the node, any node, and extending node. It doesn't matter which node you have because all nodes they will inherit, they will extend from the node class. They will all have this functionality. However, not all objects, not all classes will have this functionality. For many of us, of course, that doesn't really matter much because we may never really get out of the scope of the scene tree. As we will do more advanced things, of course, that becomes harder, especially when you want to be more efficient or you want to do some of the more advanced stuff and dealing with, of course, you will need to deal with other things besides nodes. And if you do not understand that these many of these functions, these methods are really just part of the node class, it can be very confusing starting to delve into those other parts of the engine that will not have you will you will still use JavaScript. You will still uh, write code for for them, but they will not have many of these methods, of course, built in because they are not part of the class. They do not inherit from Node. They inherit from other classes. And that can become very confusing when you are seeing it as those universal things. Could be problematic at first, I think, and I wanted to show it a little bit when those things could happen, of course. Not that it could happen. I want to show what I mean with this. And I have a very simple script here that it just extends node. And I could put this script pretty much into any node because again, every other node inherits from node. I can randomly choose something here. Okay, there. I click there. And I could just this is the owner.gd script. And I could just make it part. It will work because animation player is a node, even if it's standing node particularly, because animation player inherits from node. The entire script works perfectly. And we see that it starts by assigning a variable, creating a variable, I then declaring a variable, sorry, and then I will assign 200. Now, right now, the value is 0, so you can already see that is that is working with the node. And of course, if the function press, if I the function process, if I press execute, which is the US cancel, the key for US cancel by default, then it will use the queue-free method on whatever the node this script is, of course, because this is the same as this. So whatever the node that have the script, it will. And let me run it a little bit here. Now I need to put this in remote to make sure I can see the changes being done. And you can now see that value is 200. So the ready function of course work. And if I press execute, the animation player should disappear. There. So that's the simple that in a nutshell is what this code is doing. However, like I said, is because it's part of the node class and I can of course erase it. I'm going to erase it and just use it on another node, and this one is of type node. It doesn't matter, it's still going to be the same thing. Once I once I press execute, it disappears. What about having a script like this in a class that is not null? And of course, that is what will first happen. What will might create a bit of confusion at the start. So let's create uh, another class, and of course, because it's not a node, it's not part of the scene tree, which by itself explain why some of these methods are not going to work, especially the most obvious ones, like get parent or get children. You need to be part of the tree, obviously, to have pretty much all these methods are in some way uh, related to the scene tree. Now, I'm not going to say every method because I'm not really sure, but pretty much that is the case. So, other classes, of course, because they are not going to be no, they are really going to be part of the scene tree. So there's already a big difference. So let's just create a new resource. And just a normal resource. And let's call it. And now I have the test result here, but I do not have a script. So let's create. Well, let me make sure. Okay, test result dot trace. So let's create a new GUI script here, and let's save this one. Save as. It's not going to be a new GUI script. It's going to be test resource, so that we know that it's the script of the test resource. So right now there is nothing, but let's do a copy paste. Obviously, the first thing that we need to do is to extends resource, because of course it's a script of our resource. Resource. So it extends resource, and of course I'm using resource because It's going to be probably the most popular class after Node. Or at least from the classes that are not a node, of course. Sorry, that's completely wrong. There are plenty of classes, of course. All the classes that are node are probably going to be many of them more just as popular or more popular than resources. Maybe. Who knows? It depends on which one we're talking about. But of the classes that are not node, I think resource it might be the most popular, or at least the first one people are going to confront, right? When they want and start thinking of, instead of putting everything on the script of the node, they think more of having some sort of complementary script with data that the node could access, where it's not really part of its script, but it's like another. And let's go and just copy paste. For this is of course for the testing purposes. We already know that there are going to be problems here. And there's the first problem. The first function Q3 not found in base self, of course. Is not is not finding itself because it doesn't exist, right? In this class. So that's the first problem we have here. So let's just comment it out. And of course, let's comment everything out. Total comment. Now something like process. If I were to write, and let me go back to owner. And also, uh, also comment it out. If I were to write a function and then, right, this will tell me the functions that are part of the class. So the the auto the autocomplete. Of course, this is one way of showing, and we can already see physics process here, and we can see process. So we already know that this is clearly a member of the node class because thanks to the autocomplete is there, but that is not going to be the case if we go and let me show function ready to. Okay, so oh wait, whoops, I was on the wrong one. No wonder why it wasn't showing. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. See, now that I'm in the right one, in the owner, because the owner is the one that is extending no. So now red. There it is. If I go and physics process, this is it's right there. And so on and so forth. Input, another one that is used a lot is input. Another one that is used a lot. Right there. If I go to the test resource, like you see it happen last time, let me comment this back. If I go to the resource, and of course I tried Fosh. No. Red thing? It doesn't appear. It doesn't appear. Same goes with process and input. There's an edit one. And that's an interesting thing about it. But because init can be used in place of ready, and it's like a higher level version of ready. So that definitely tells you that, well, this class does not, and this is the resource class, does not obviously, because it's not a node, it does not inherit from node, but what it inherits, whatever class it inherits the init one. However, input also is not there. But if we toggle the comment, of course, there is no error here, except, well, there is an error here. Of course. Let me just comment this out and just pass. And this might be part of the confusion because the function process is there. The ready process, you can write them, and this will cause a little bit of confusion because, well, they're there. However, do they work? And the answer, of course, is that no. What you're doing here is pretty much declaring a method with that name. That's it. As it goes with process. It has nothing to do with the process method and the ready method that is already part of the node class. So they are two different things. And let's see it in action. Well, it's going to be difficult, of course, because at the end of the day, we cannot have an object, a resource, just be part of the scene tree like hanging here now. That's not how it works. So let's take out this script, the owner script from the owner class, and I need to call this R load, push resource load, and create a new one. So I created a new one, and all I'm going to be doing is just create a variable so we can instantiate the the resource object in that variable. So, and let's call it resource. I hope it doesn't become, because I'm calling everything resource, it doesn't become, well, I guess I can call it my resource. I could also write a class here, but for the purpose of this test, I don't want to overcomplicate things. So let's just put the resource here, and of course, resource. So let's call it local resource. There you go. I mean, calling it local resource, well, whatever. Let's just call it local resource. And I'm going to take let me say, and I'm going to take this script, which is the thirst resource script, and I'm going to add it to the local resource variable. So now this is loaded. And you can see the value, for example. So this is loading the resource, and will that do something? I mean, I can tell you that the answer is no, but will that do something? Let's see. And of course, the answer is, let's look in the remote. Owner, of course, owner doesn't have any declared variable as part of the script that we wrote. It only have the resource, but if we look at the resource, the value is still 0, even when we are running the game. So the ready function that is on it, right? The ready function that is on it is doing nothing. This is doing nothing. And it's doing nothing because This is just for the purpose of resource. It's not the same ready function of the node. This is the ready function that you just created for it. It has the same name, but it's not the same. Now, if we were to use, and I want to do this experiment, what happens if you use init? And I'm not sure what will happen. So let's go back. Now, that doesn't mean that there is no way, of course, to have the this function run as a ready function. I mean, there is, and it's all the same. You have to do it through the node. For example, right now this is the the node, right? I'm using the script of the node, which is the rload. I'm going to close this one for now, so that we don't get confused. But rload is right now the script that is extending from the node. So the owner node. So let's write a start function. Oh wait, it's not start, it's ready. Where is start? There is another game engine in which is start. I'm not sure which one it is. So here we're going to go then to local resource and dot start. So we're pretty much running the start function of the local resource. I mean, it's called ready. I'm really confusing start and ready. Is there another engine in which is start? I cannot remember. I cannot remember the equivalent. So ready. So I'm now running the ready function in the resource on the ready function on the node. So let's do then an additional thing here. Let's add a variable that is going to be called local value. Instead of the resource value, node value. Let's call it node value. And node value is going to be local resource value. Is it value how it's called? Yeah, it's just called value. So now let's see if there's any change here. Node value is null. Oh, of course. It's because sorry, sorry, sorry. I'm improvising here. I'm improvising now. Now it should work. Now it should work. So let's go to remote. And now the node value is 200. So we did run the ready function of the resource that changed the value, which defaults to 0. You change it to 200. And then assign that value to the node value. To the node value. However, the members still have a 0 here, so this is never changed. Apparently, this is not changed. And there's probably a reason why, who knows. But the thing about this, and really I don't want to go in a tangent here and focus on what I was talking about these functions and why we should be careful. Again, what these functions are here, and this is the resource. This is the resource script. On the node script, this ready function is the one that is inherited from node. On this test script, it's just something you are inventing. It has the same name, but it's something you are declaring there. And you can easily, of course, test it by just changing the name. Let's say these are apples. That's it. It's value 200. And of course, we don't have to go here and change because we're gonna going to run apples. Was it plural? Yeah. And it's going to behave the same way. When we go to the node value is still 200. Because at the end of the day, you know, even if, and here I could say this is peaches, it doesn't matter. Let's do this one and let's run it on the process function. Now I'm on the script. Let me on the script of the node of the owner node of the node that I call owner. Let's just go with process, normal old vanilla process, and let's just write uh, p no, just local resource peaches. And of course, I called it now peaches, but it was called process the last time, and I can call it process again. It doesn't matter because it's like I said, this is not the process function from the node class, it's the process function from this resource, from this script. So let me save, and let's run it. What is going to happen is that when I press execute, I'm going to see the here on the output here uh, on the editor, I'm going to see the word cancel. It should pop a lot because it's on the process function of the node, which happens per frame. So there you go. And of course, like I did last time, peaches. Let's change it to peaches. And let's change it to peaches. Oh wait, this is not. This one needs to be processed. This one needs to be peaches. And let's run it again. And look at that. Right? Because in the resource process, the function process is not a singleton. I mean, there's a singleton in the node class, but it's not on the resource. It's not. So when you write it, you're just declaring it. And the same goes with many of uh, the other functions from node and the other node classes. The resource will never inherit from them. So if you want to use them, you have to pretty much call it from the node. Pretty much tell the node to do it for the resource. Or from another point of view, the resource can only have sort of the data and the method that you want the owner to run. But it's the owner the one that is running the stuff, if that makes your sense. And with owner, I mean the node. Now, I made the example like this because this is probably when you're confronting this for the first time, it's probably going to be something like this. At least it was for me. Now I don't know if you like me had trouble with this, and I hope this could have helped you. There are obviously a lot more of why this happened, and of course, a lot of this can be easily cleared by just looking into the classes And you can easily see as part of the classes if you look for it. I'm willing to bet the ready function is the ready method. Oh, 32 matches. That's okay. So okay, here it is. So as you can see, we're still on the documentation of the node class. So you can see that readies and probably and process is right on top of it. So you can see that these are let's see if there's a list. There's of course a list. I already knew there was a list. There are always this. Ah, there you go. List. An input is here, physics process, on handle input, add child, add sibling. So Q3. So and they are part of the node class. Now the node class inherits from object. And if we go to object, we're not going to find this will be the base class for all classes, of course. And notice here, you can see notice here. Right there. Now resource is not here, but that's because resource inherit from this class if I'm correct. Ref counted. Also inherits from object. So let's look at resource should be resource. Right? And if we look at object, we saw that both the resource and the node had the init function. So I'm willing to bet that init is a method here. Called when the object script is instantiated. So that's why it's a higher level. If I'm not mistaken, ready is when the node entered the scene tree. I think that was it. This is even before that, when it's instantiated, the script is instantiated. So this happened even before. And let's do a little change here. Let's do a little change here. I'm going to close. Let's do a little change here. Let's change the apples for init. No, 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 no. There, init. And now, I bet we don't even need to for the value to appear correct. So now instead of running the ready function of the resource from the ready function of the node, I'm not I'm just using init. So the only thing that the ready function is going to do is apply the resource value to the node value. And right now the resource value of course is 0, but it should be 200. Right, if init works like I think it works, then it should be 200 when we check the node first reload. And no, it doesn't work. So init probably happens maybe even before the variable is declared. That's something that should be taken in consideration. Now, that's a guess I'm making. I'm not expert in Godot, but I think this is the logical or a bit of a logical conclusion. Well, anyway, that is what I wanted to talk about when it came to these functions. And of course, this is obviously basic level, but I'm willing to bet many people already know it, or this is the most obvious thing in the world. I think that when you're a beginner, and definitely was for me, this can be very confusing. Especially when you, like me, make that assumption that something like ready or process is just part of the engine, but it's not. It's again a method of the node class. So thank you for watching, and if you learn anything about it, anything that helped, let me know. And of course, if you are a pro and you have a lot of insight or corrections or anything, let me know. Absolutely.